This video is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. What's up, guys? We are here for the Sphere card, which is going to have an Easter egg hunt. You're going to be able to watch movies in an insane arena where the fight is probably going to be projected all around. And yes, they do have an Easter egg hunt. Dana said whoever finds them all or something like that gets $25,000. I wonder if they're going to add anything else, but the fight is going to have 10 total. It's going to start at the usual time slot. The card is all right. You know, you got Sean O'Malley versus Merab as the main event. You do have other good Hispanic fighters like Daniel Zellhuber, Raul Rosas Jr., Alexa Grasso, Manuel Torres, some really good fighters on this. Osbourne on the main card. He's the only fighter on a loss streak, and he's on the main card. But maybe the card performs way better, so I'm curious to see how some of these fights play out. Diego Lopes versus Brian Ortega, in my opinion, is overall the best fight on the card with everything involved, maybe. Or it's Manuel Torres and Igancio Bahamondes. But I will say that the prospect of the night is 100% Raul Rosas Jr. You could also say Manuel Torres, but I think Rosas Jr. has a brighter future. Up to 25 years old, because he says he wants to retire by 25 after defending the belt a few times. He has a lot of good skills. He might become champion one day, but to retire that early is kind of crazy. The fighter of the night is 100% Sean O'Malley. He's the biggest star on the card. He's going to be the main fighter, I guess, drawing pay-per-view numbers and stuff like that, other than the Sphere itself, because the Sphere is also going to draw some pay-per-view buys without any fighter. But O'Malley is the biggest show of the card. The stake of the night, Osbourne, he's the only fighter on a loss streak. Both of those submissions, first and second rounds. And the only win he had in 2023 was a split decision win against Charles Johnson, who's looking pretty good these days. And before they got knocked out by Tyson Nam, so he needs to win this against Ronaldo Rodriguez, which doesn't look too likely. The banger of the night, the most explosive, fun fight on the card, I think is Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopes. That's going to be an absolute war. The most exciting fight on the entire card. Lopes is going to go right after Ortega. Ortega's going to be drawn into this brawl with Diego Lopes, and even if it goes to the ground, the scrambles are going to be insane from these two high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners. And now I have to say the fight of the night, the overall best fight, is actually probably Manuel Torres versus Igancio Bahamondes. Two very skilled fighters, two fighters that look for the finish, good on the feet, good on the ground, a highly technical fight with fight-ending implications throughout the entire bout. And with that, let's start with the first fight. Raul Rosas Jr. versus Qileng Aori is the only fight on the early prelims. This is a fight for Raul Rosas Jr. to dominate. He is absolutely going to win this in my opinion. I'm going with a submission win for him. Hopefully after this fight, he goes up against a ranked bantamweight, or at least someone close to the top 15, because this fight is just made for him. I mean, Bo Nickel is going to be fighting Paul Craig. At least that's a bit of a test. Raul did fight Christian Rodriguez, but he made a mistake in the first round of just starting way too quickly and he gassed out. But I think Raul is going to run right through Aori and hopefully goes up against a very good fighter in his next one. The only thing about Aori is that he has a lot of fights, right? He's 25-11, whereas Raul is 9-1. So I guess that's a bit of the test here for Raul, going up against an experienced veteran. But yeah, Edgar Chairez versus Joshua Van. Joshua Van just got knocked out 2 months ago, and it seems like it was a month ago. He was out. Charles Johnson destroyed him. And remember, he's not going right into a fight. He had a training camp, most likely sparred, got hit in the head in training camp inside of those 2 months. And Edgar Chairez is looking pretty good out there, man. If this was a fresh Joshua Van, I would 100% go with him, but I'm going to go with the underdog here, Edgar Chairez, because Joshua Van gained KO 2 months ago. Chairez has a bit of momentum going on. He has a bit of confidence about himself. He has good feints with his hands before he lands a right straight or a left hook. Sneaky submissions on the ground. I can see him dropping Joshua Van's soft chin and then finish him with a submission. I don't know why he came so soon to fight someone like Edgar Chairez. He needed to take at least a half a year off from a knockout loss like that. Because the guy's not old, right? So he should try to save his brain a bit. Crazy, man, because he is one of the best prospects in the sport, in my opinion. He has such a bright future. And if he's taking fights like this after knockout losses and gets knocked out by Edgar Chairez, a lot of fans aren't going to look at Joshua Van the same anymore. Yazmin Jauregui versus Ketlen Souza. Ketlen Souza's got that bounce, but I'm going to go Yazmin Jauregui. Souza's footwork can be a bit tricky for Jauregui in the beginning, but I do think that Jauregui's striking is just overall better. She's much better as a counter puncher. She's much better as an aggressive puncher. Pretty good on the ground, and Souza's takedown defense hasn't been the greatest. And because Ketlen Souza is a bit passive in the stand-up, she bounces around, tries to find an opening that's going to give a lot of space and a lot of opportunities for Yazmin Jauregui to take over the pace of the fight and the distance. They're both the same height, 5'3". They both have pretty much the same reach. But with Ketlen Souza being so willing to just back up away from Yazmin Jauregui, it's going to give Jauregui a lot of control over this fight. So I'm going to go Yazmin Jauregui here by a decision. And then we go to, in my opinion, the best fight on the entire card. Manuel Torres versus Igancio Bahamondes. Torres is 29 years old, in the lightweight division, 5'10", 73-inch reach, 15-2 professionally, on a 6-fight win streak, all finishes. He's got some submissions, he's got some knockouts, and none of those opponents got out of the first round with him. The furthest anyone got with him was Frank Camacho, 3 minutes and 27 seconds into the first round. He is destroying opponents out there. He has a bit of like a risky fighting style, so the longevity may not be there once he goes up against like really high level fighters, but maybe he makes like a switch and becomes like a Charles Oliveira type, just a menacing offensive fighter, always going for the finishes. Igancio Bahamondes is from Chile, 27 years old, 6'3", 75.5 reach, and 15-5 professionally. He's 3-1 in his last 4 fights. Won his last fight against Christos Giagos by a first round head kick. He's a devastating kicker, very long, uses that reach pretty well, but that reach is the main thing that he has on Torres, right? He's a better kicker and he's got range. If Torres walks him down, puts the pressure on him, the kicks are not going to be as threatening. So I think Manuel Torres' aggressive style is going to play a big factor in him winning this. So that is why I'm going to go with Torres to win this by maybe a TKO or a submission. It's hard to know which one he would go to because if he drops his opponent, sometimes he will go for the submission. He's also very, very physically strong in the clinch. We saw that how he manhandled Chris Duncan in his last fight, and his power in his shots, like the elbow land on Nicholas Mata, launching him into the fence with it. It's crazy how hard this guy hits. But he's so, I don't want to say defenseless, but defense isn't his strong suit. And every time he's at range, Igancio can kick him in the head. Igancio is one of the best head kickers in the sport. But I think Torres has the speed advantage. I think he hits harder overall. I think he's physically stronger. And his aggressive style is not the greatest for Igancio Bahamondes to fight against. So I'm going to go with Manuel Torres in this one by a second round TKO, but it could be a submission. Then we go to the women's bantamweight division, Irene Aldana versus Norma Dumont. We all love Norma Dumont, and I think she's also going to win this fight, mainly because she's more well-rounded. Irene Aldana is one of the better boxers in that weight class. Well, now probably the best boxer. That Holly Holm is old. Amanda Nunes retired. She is probably the best one there when it comes to throwing hands, blocking punches, has decent footwork. But Norma Dumont has very big, thick legs, and that's going to create a lot of power for her leg kicks. Irene Aldana did not check many kicks when she fought Rosa in her last fight. Norma Dumont can also go for takedowns like she did when she fought Germaine Duranamy. Although Duranamy was way older and very inactive as a fighter, just the fact that she can throw leg kicks, Aldana doesn't check those, and she can shoot takedowns, Aldana doesn't have great takedown defense. I think those are the ways that Dumont is going to win the fight, and she carries a lot of power. She used to be a featherweight, pretty big for the weight class. She just doesn't want to exchange shots for a long time with Aldana. She wants to probably get one overhand in there, go for the takedown, drive it up to the fence, and win that way. From range, just throw leg kicks. Then we go to the flyweight division. A lot of flyweight fights on this card. Ronaldo Rodriguez from Mexico versus Aori Osbourne from America, but also from Jamaica. So he trains in Wisconsin, but he was born in Jamaica. Well, I'm going to go with Ronaldo Rodriguez. He is a very exciting fighter. He has that vintage Mexican style, stands his ground in front of you and throws hands pretty technically at times too. Like, he has a good left hook, good body shots, doesn't have much defense in the feet. Aori Osbourne, who's longer than him and has better footwork than him, can probably land some jabs and stuff, but if Ronaldo gets in close, if he gets into the pocket, Aori Osbourne is going to explode. And if the fight goes to the ground, it's wraps. Ronaldo Rodriguez is probably going to submit him. He has very good submission defense. Aori Osbourne does have a lot of submissions on his record, but I do see Rodriguez escaping those, reversing like he's done in his last fight against Dennis Bondar, and just laying bombs on the body, overhand to the head, left hook to the head, maybe dropping him and then getting a rear naked choke to finish the fight. So I'm going to go lazy boy here, Ronaldo Rodriguez by a submission win. And it's crazy. So he's 25 years old, right? And if you combine his professional and amateur careers, he has like 40 fights. 40 fights as a 25-year-old fighter in the flyweight division is kind of crazy. And a really good record too. It's not like he's losing these fights either. He's 16-2. His last loss was 7 fights ago, back in 2020. But Aori Osbourne, he's a bit older, right? 32, which is still like prime age. That 73-inch reach is going to help him land the jab and stuff like that, but he has a loose guard and his punches are sometimes loose. So I can see Ronaldo Rodriguez like breaking through those punches with his own, and his record being 12-7-1. He is much older, but way less experienced as a professional fighter, but he's been in the UFC for a long time. Then we go to the lightweight division between Daniel Zellhuber from Mexico versus Esteban Robovics from Argentina. Zellhuber is 25 years old, 6'1", with a 77-inch reach, 15-1 professionally on a 3-fight win streak. Robovics is 28 years old, 5'10", with a 69-inch reach, and 13-1 professionally on a 2-win streak. Zellhuber's coming off a pretty good performance against Francisco Prado, whereas Esteban head kicked Terrence McKinney. And I think this fight's gonna be kind of similar to when Zellhuber fought Prado, because Esteban has a similar kind of body type. He's aggressive with his hands, mostly a boxer with good kicks, but Zellhuber is so tall, it's going to be hard for Esteban to really get the kicks up there, especially with Zellhuber being so accurate with his jab and his straight. His fundamentals are on point, whereas Esteban, he throws a lot of power punches out there, and there are a lot of openings for Zellhuber to counter him. So we're probably going to see a lot of power punches getting thrown by Esteban, missing, as Zellhuber just peppers him with the jab and the 1-2, and wins by a decision. So I'm going to go with Daniel Zellhuber here, winning every single round. Zellhuber is a minus 236 favorite, which I do agree with. Let's get right into that Ortega and Lopes fight. Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopes is going to be an insane fight. Two fighters with an iron chin, a lot of power in their hands, kind of wild with some of their combinations, but wizards on the ground. Ortega's been in the UFC a lot longer than Lopes, but Lopes has nearly twice the fights as Ortega in his professional career, so that's going to be quite interesting. And we saw Ortega, the way he looked against Yair Rodriguez. He honestly looks like he's declining a little bit, unless that's just both him and Yair looked a bit off in their fight. Whereas Diego Lopes is looking better in every single fight, even against Dan Ige, who took the fight on short notice and gave Lopes a very tough fight. It was at a catch weight 20 pounds heavier, and he was throwing haymakers as usual, uppercuts, landing some shots, but Dan Ige showed to also have a really good chin. And even though Ige was noticeably bigger than Lopes was able to take his best shots. It was crazy to see that. Well tired as well in the third round. He ate a huge left hand to the face, took the punch very well, and just continued to fight. Had the grappling advantage in the fight, but I don't know if he's going to have that against Ortega. Ortega still might be the best grappler in the featherweight division. He showed a lot more control and patience when he took down Yair, got the arm triangle, and I think that might be the difference maker if the fight goes to the ground between these two. I think Ortega, the fact that he's been a black belt for so long, the fact that he's rolled with so many great grapplers and able to adjust his style a bit, not just go for triangle chokes and arm bars and all this crazy stuff off his back, but the ability to switch that up and be a bit more patient and slowing down the grappling if he needs to. I think that'll help him win the grappling here against Diego Lopes, but Lopes might win the striking exchanges. He's faster, he's bigger. Ortega doesn't really have great boxing defense. I think Ortega's been dropped once in the last, how many years, right? Yair Rodriguez dropped him with a very sneaky combination off of his leg kick, straight down the center, dropping Ortega. Then as Ortega tried to stand back up, Yair dropped him against the fence, and that's where Ortega instinctually tried to take the fight to the ground. So that's a bit unpredictable about this fight. If Diego Lopes hurts Ortega shoots a takedown, gets Lopes to the ground, or Lopes goes for a guillotine or something, Ortega survives, gets out of it, he might dominate Lopes while on top. But in a fight between two wild strikers with excellent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Diego Lopes to win by a decision. I think he will drop Ortega once in the fight. I think Ortega will land some big shots on Lopes. There'll be some crazy scrambles on the ground, but I think Lopez's damage in the stand-up is going to win him the rounds. Insane fight, one of the best fights of the entire card. And then we go into the co-main event in the women's flyweight division, where the champion Alexa Grasso is going up against her rival Valentina Shevchenko, and this should end the rivalry between these two. Alexa Grasso won the first fight. The second fight was a draw, where some people think that Shevchenko should have won the fight, but I think the difference in this third one is Shevchenko is just getting older. I don't think we're going to see the same Shevchenko we saw last time. She's 36 years old in the flyweight division, has been fighting forever. I mean, she was in Muay Thai before MMA. She had her first MMA fight back in 2003. She's been fighting literally longer than anyone else in the female divisions. There's not one fighter that's predated her. And Grasso's in her prime, constantly getting better. She has better boxing. She's very dangerous on the ground. Shevchenko has the wrestling in this fight, but I think Grasso is going to make those adjustments in her takedown defense, whether that's going to be the footwork, whether that's just throwing out the jab more often, lower stance, something like that, that might make it tougher for Shevchenko to wrestle with Grasso. I still think Grasso's going to land the 1-2 from the southpaw stance because Shevchenko always pulls away for the counter right hook. Grasso's left hand is going to go right down the center, straight punch being looping, just like it did in the first fight. So my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Alexa Grasso. I think Shevchenko's just a bit too old at this point. And then we go to the main event. In the bantamweight division, Sugar Sean O'Malley versus the machine, Merab Dvalishvili. These guys have been talking for a long time, and a lot of fans believe that Merab is the fighter to beat O'Malley. I used to think that as well, but then when you look back at O'Malley's takedown defense against Aljamain Sterling, when you look at how much better his striking is getting, how underrated his grappling is, and how he has the best footwork in the UFC. Easily the best footwork out there. And Merab usually walks in straight lines. He's a lot more linear with his movements, linear with his combinations, with the way he shoots takedowns and stuff. Merely an opponent moving laterally is going to give Merab Dvalishvili a hard fight. He's open to getting hit. He keeps his right hand up to his head, but just doesn't do much else to defend punches. Maybe just shoot a takedown, right? That's every wrestler's defense getting punched to the face, and Merab shoots takedowns more than anyone else. But he's not a submission threat like a Charles Oliveira, or he's not a ground and pound guy like Khabib. He kind of just takes you down and then tries to win rounds like that. If O'Malley lands a couple punches on the feet, O'Malley should be winning some of these rounds just due to how accurate and powerful he is. Every single punch he hits Merab with might rock Merab, so Dvalishvili also drops his right hand whenever he's throwing it. The beginning of the punch and the end of the punch, his chin is there to be hit. Sean O'Malley could fight in both stances, orthodox or southpaw. He's a sniper and very, very quick to throw his punches through those kind of openings. If Merab is not shooting takedowns, he's going to get knocked out. And if he keeps shooting takedowns, he might eat a knee or uppercut or something like that. So in the damage aspect of the fight, it's hard to see Merab actually win against Sean O'Malley. He could wrestle him to a decision, right? He could win that way, but that would mean that Sean O'Malley's not landing anything. He's not landing any punches. He's not landing any kicks, any knees, nothing like that. He's not going for submissions. If Merab wins that way, if he just wrestles Sean O'Malley to a decision, that would mean that he shut down Sean O'Malley's entire offensive striking game and submission game too, which will really show that Merab is one of the best fighters in the world if he does that. If he shuts down Sean O'Malley's striking game without ever getting hit, even while he's only shooting takedowns, he shoots 40 takedowns in a round. If he's not getting hit, Merab is one of the best fighters in the UFC because his takedowns are not necessarily technical like Islam Makhachev's or technical like Bilal Muhammad's or, these high-level wrestlers like Hamza Chimaev. These guys have way better technical wrestling skills, especially when it comes to takedowns, than Merab Dvalishvili, who relies a lot more on his cardio and pace. He relies a lot more on his attributes. But when you actually look at his takedowns, they're a lot more basic. His movements, his footwork, everything seems very, very rudimentary in a way. Rudimentary. It's like limited to basic technique, and O'Malley does very well against those kind of fighters. But Merab surprises a lot of fighters because of how many takedowns he's able to shoot without ever getting tired. They do pretty well with him in the first 2 rounds or so, but they're not able to keep up with his pace, and that's why he dominates them as the fight goes on. Or he's fighting guys like Peter Yan, who's a slow starter. He can't even fight Merab in the first 2 rounds. But fighters who start fast, like Sean O'Malley, it's a different thing, right? That's like the opposite of Peter Yan in a way. O'Malley can start very, very fast. And he's shown when he's the hammer in a fight, at least against Chito, he has very good cardio too. We just don't know how his cardio is going to look if Merab pushes him up against the fence, pressures him, wrestles them the entire fight. We've never seen O'Malley's cardio when he's the nail in a fight or someone's being competitive with him. He's gone 5 rounds one time in his career, and that was against Chito, who just stood there. So that's the thing here. But my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Sean O'Malley. I'm going to go with O'Malley by a first round knockout. Definitely not a confident pick. This fight is close whichever way you go. If you go with Merab, you go with O'Malley. You can see how both fighters win this. Merab's chances of just wrestling O'Malley to a decision is very high, but so is O'Malley's chances of knocking Merab out. I think O'Malley is going to snipe Merab coming in the first round. Merab is probably going to be a little patient for the first minute, bouncing forward and back, looking for his opening. O'Malley's going to give him a lot of feints, switching stances, but not being behind the black lines. He's going to be somewhat in the center still, but Merab is going to put a little bit of pressure on O'Malley just with the forward and back steps and the wrestling threat. Then Merab is probably going to throw a jab forward, drop his right hand. He might go in for a takedown. O'Malley hits him with an uppercut, rocks him, either finishes that one with ground and pound, or the next exchange, after O'Malley moves away from the takedown Merab is trying to follow up with, they get back into the center of the cage, and then O'Malley just snipes him from distance and knocks him out. And for any bettors out there who wants to capitalize on some of these betting lines, make sure to go to mybookie.ag. Sean O'Malley is a -140 favorite against Merab, who's a +110. Very interesting because I think Dvalishvili was a favorite when they announced this fight. Alexa Grasso, also kind of similar, -147 favorite against a +115 Valentina Shevchenko. Diego Lopes, the -190 favorite against a +147 Brian Ortega. That is very interesting. Zellhuber, -236 against a +180 Esteban. Ronaldo Rodriguez, the -144 favorite against the +113 Osbourne. I do kind of agree with him being the favorite, but I think he should be much bigger on the odds than that. Aldana and Dumont are nearly a pick'em. That's quite interesting. I think Dumont is going to win the fight. I think she has more skills overall, while also being pretty big for the weight class. And Aldana doesn't really defend leg kicks. Manuel Torres, the -132 favorite against the +104 Igancio Bahamondes. I agree with those lines. Yazmin, Jauregui, the -526 favorite against the +350 Ketlen Souza. I can agree with that as well, but a 5-1 favorite is kind of insane. I mean, the last time she was a big favorite like that, she got knocked out, but I do pick her to win the fight. And then Raul Rosas Jr., the -847 favorite against a +510 Qileng Aori. I mean, again, this fight is made for Raul to win. -800 is crazy, but he should definitely win that fight. And there's some good lines here. And you don't have to go with a straight bet, just picking one fighter, but you can even pick a parlay. Just pick multiple fighters you're confident in winning to multiply your earnings. You can also live bet. And MyBookie's giving you a first deposit bonus where they'll match up whatever you put in all the way up to $1,000. So if you put in $10, they'll give you another 10 to play with. And all you got to do is use a promo code WEASEL. That's WEASLE to take advantage of MyBookie's sign-up offer. It will come with a rollover withdrawal requirement. And for any bettors out there, make sure to go to mybookie.ag where you can win big. I hope you guys enjoyed the predictions, and if you guys did, make sure to give this a like, make sure to subscribe with the bell for notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video.